As we're living through more anti-Semitism than we have ever experienced in our lifetimes before, there's a fascinating consequence to the anti-Semitism that we never expected. Something is happening to us as Jews individually and to us as Jews collectively. Listen to this very eloquent explanation from Israeli superstar actress Gal Gadot. This is something special.
My name is Gal. I'm a mother, a wife, a sister, a daughter, an actress. I'm Israeli, and I'm Jewish. I'm gonna say it again. My name is Gal, and I'm Jewish. Isn't it crazy that just saying that, just expressing such a simple fact about who I am, feels like a controversial statement? But sadly, this is where we're at today. I grew up in Rosh Hashanah, in the center of Israel. My mother was the daughter of a Holocaust survivor. Her father, my grandfather, Avraham Weiss, may he rest in peace, was born in what was then Czechoslovakia. He was the only one in his family who survived. His father died fighting for the Czech army when the Nazis invaded, and his mother and brother were murdered in the gas chambers of Auschwitz. He came to Israel with nothing and built a life for himself. And despite the horrors he endured, he always taught me the values of love, compassion, and tolerance. את לא משיגה שום דבר בכעס ובשנאה. You don't win anything with anger and hate, he used to tell me. Thank you. On my father's side, I'm the 8th generation to be born in the land of Israel. One of my ancestors was the very first chemist in the Shaarei Tzedek Hospital in Jerusalem. I'm very proud of both sides of my family, and they show the two sides of Israel. On the one hand, a country that provided a life raft for refugees fleeing the horrors of persecution, pogroms, and the Holocaust. And on the other hand, the historic homeland of the Jewish people, where our roots run deep and where we are an indigenous people. I am proud to be an Israeli, and I am proud to be Jewish. But this is a time when many of us in the Jewish community have had to find our voice and confront the hatred against us, even if it's extremely uncomfortable. That's been the case for all of us in every walk of life and every profession, including my own. I never really wanted to talk about politics. I kind of tried really, really hard to avoid it because no one wants to hear celebrities talking about political issues, right? But also, I regarded myself as a citizen of the world, an equal among equals. I'm Israeli, of course, and I knew that anti-Semitism and anti-Israel hate existed. And like all of us, sometimes I'd caught a whiff of it. But I never thought of myself as being where I came from. It was an aspect of who I am, but it didn't define me. And then October 7th happened, and everything since. Never did I imagine that we would witness such a day of such death and destruction of Jews in our lifetime. And never did I imagine that on the streets of the United States and different cities around the world, we would see people not condemning Hamas, but celebrating, justifying, and cheering on a massacre of Jews. I know I'm not the only one in this room when I say that this was a wake-up call. And here's the thing. However much you tried to avoid it before, even if speaking up wasn't really your thing, none of us can ignore the explosion of Jew hatred around the world anymore. And that's what I'm doing. No way I need it. It really is me standing in front of you today, saying simply that my name is Gal and I'm Jewish. And we have had enough of Jew hatred. We will confront anti-Semitism. We will call it out, but we will never let it not only defeat us, but define us, because our love is stronger than their hate. In the days after October 7th, we were all distraught. Like many of you, I was glued to the horrors coming out of Israel and the hatred spilling over here. I'm not a religiously observant person, but I found myself in the temple, in the synagogue. And it was then when finally I was just a little bit comforted. I felt the embrace of the Jewish people and the power in the warmth of our community. And I will never forget that feeling, because even though I was a long way from home in Israel and I was in a temple in Los Angeles, I felt at home among family. And for those few precious moments, the chaos and violence of the outside world felt just a little bit easier to deal with. October 7th showed us that what happens to Jews anywhere affects Jews everywhere. And this goes both ways. Not only what happens there affects us here, but what happens here affects them there. So here we are in this room together, calling for the release of every single one of our hostages. We have to bring them home. With every hostage release, we hear new testimonies of the horrors they've been through. Every minute for them is hell. Their lives are in danger, and we need them home. We want the hostages and their families to know that we have your back, that we are here for you. And we need them to know that wherever they go in the world, where there's a Jewish community, they will always find people who campaigned for them, who love them, and who will never let them walk alone. Because this is who we are, and this is who we will always be, taking responsibility for each other. Along with my husband, Yaron, we're bringing up 4 daughters to also be proud of who they are, to take responsibility, to love themselves. We're raising strong, independent Jewish women, strong women who stand with other women. Now, I know many women in this room and in our community that have stood strong for the rights of women and girls. On October 7th, Jewish women were sexually terrorized, raped, murdered, and kidnapped by Hamas. We were all listening for, hoping to hear support from our sisters around the world, and too often heard silence. We can't wait any longer. We can't hold our breaths and pray or beg for support from people, groups, community that don't want to be there for us. We need to be there for ourselves. And this is why every single Jew must lean in now, in whatever way we can. Speak up, learn more about our history. We can always do that. Join a temple, find your community, get connected, and as we support our own community, never stop reaching out to the world. Rabbi Hillel famously said, "Im en ani li mili." If I'm not for, sorry, I'm too excited. I'm not used to this. Rabbi Hillel famously said, "Im en ani li mili." If I'm not for myself, then who will be for me? And if I'm only for myself, then what am I? So even if we don't hear others speaking up for us, we have to keep speaking up for ourselves and reaching out our hands to everyone to join in. That is what I tell my daughters. First, learn to love yourselves, who you are and where you're from, and then the rest will follow. It's time to pass on to our children a love of who they are. So, who are we? We, the Jewish people, are an ancient people with an ancient story in an ancient homeland. We are the people that celebrate life. We work to see better and more peaceful future. We challenge hate when we face it, but we do it with love while always striving to make the world a better place. And who am I? My name is Gal, and I'm Jewish. I'm Israel Chai. Thank you.
Wow. An amazing thing is happening after October 7th, where Jews from every color and creed are coming home. Whether they are simple, low down on the echelon of politics or the economic ladder, or top movie actors in Los Angeles, they're finding their way back to the synagogue because now we're realizing that we cannot rely on others for our support. We need to lean in to our own community, to our own identity, to our own history, heritage, to our own faith in order to find our way. Now is the time for us to be more Jewish. You see, we're living in biblical times. There's amazing things going on. And just like the Jews of ancient times were attacked and miraculously survived, we too are somehow, in ways that we cannot properly explain, we're outliving our enemies and we're managing to overcome our enemies whose animosity is unthinkable, who've been planning for decades, for centuries to hurt us, yet their plans flop, like the Iranian attack in Israel twice. Indeed, we're living in biblical times. Now is our time to shine. Let us rise to the occasion.